Well, welcome again. If I didn't mention my name, I'm Reverend Kathy, and I am the interim minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Boca Raton, and I welcome everyone this morning. Last week, we had a terrific pagan study group service that was grounded in the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, which recognized the end of the harvest season and the beginning of the dark season of winter. Now, the ancient Celts of Ireland would have been intimately familiar with the rhythms of earth, those rhythms on which their lives depended. So the cusps of things, liminal spaces, were spiritually important to the Celts. They recognized their own mortality in the life cycles of flora and fauna. So between the last day of October and the first day of November, which is actually, November is Samhain, in the ancient Irish tongue, that was an in-between time. And when they thought that the veil between the living and dead was thought to be thin, so to ward off any evil spirits that might cross the veil, the Celts kept a bonfire going all night, and they wore animal skins, skulls, and horns to disguise themselves, lest they be recognized by any malevolent spirits. At the same time, they must have felt some sentiment for the loved ones who had died, the good souls. And surely they felt their own mortality keenly at this time. So when Christianity came to the Emerald Island in about the 5th century, the day of October, the last day of October became known as All Hallows Eve or Halloween, and the first day of November became All Hallows Day, or All Souls Day. Actually, it was All Saints Day, but it changed. The Catholic Church still has two, All Saints, All Souls, but we Protestants just name it All Souls Day. So, of course, this is in recognition of knowing we are going to die. Knowing we are going to die, isn't that a heck of a thing? Our consciousness being aware of that. And it's a curse and a blessing. The curse of our awareness of death lies in grappling with that cavernous unknown, right? This deep sense of mystery that surrounds it and brings it to our consciousness, begging the really big questions of why and what happens afterward. The blessing of knowing we're going to die prompts us to squeeze meaning out of every moment and take what joy we can find in our living. Surely knowing our own mortality is at the heart of our human penchant towards wanting to know or having answers, right, to the unanswerable. So for several millennia, we've been trying to fill in those blanks with everything from speculation, superstition, beliefs, to a very systematic theology or theologies. For us in this sanctuary this morning, we hold a variety of beliefs and viewpoints about our mortality. In Unitarian Universalism, there exists no unifying theology concerning death. We tend to be much more concerned about how well we live in the here and now. Yet at times, as we've heard this morning, mortality knocks us for a loop, like surviving a car crash or suffering the unexpected death of a loved one. We struggle at that time with the same big questions. And those questions are a large part of our grief and our grieving process. And while among us we may have varied beliefs and viewpoints in which to frame our mortality and cope with death, the best metaphor that I have found for understanding death as a natural part of life is Leo Buscaglia's story for all ages, Freddie the Fallen Leaf. So I see children of all ages in front of me right now, including myself. So I'm going to tell you that story. Freddie is one leaf on a branch that he shares with many others. And that branch is one of many on a mature tree growing in a public park. In the spring season, Freddie, like his friends, started out as plump buds, unfurling as the days lengthened and warmed. Fully grown by summer, Freddie and his friends enjoy providing shade for people and the animals below. Providing shade is their purpose, their reason for being. They all enjoy the warm breezes and cooling rains, and it feels good to be part of thousands of other leaves on this tree as the summer days grow longer and the nourishing sun burns brightly above them. But at a certain point, little by little, the nights get longer. Still, Freddie and his friends enjoy the silver touch of moonlight and don't think much about it until all of a sudden it seems that fall is upon them. The nights are cold and windy, not breezy. And Freddie notices that his friends are turning from green to different shades of red, yellow, and orange, gold. So Freddie asks his best friend Daniel what's happening. Why are his friends turning all different colors? And Daniel explains that we're all different from each other. We all have different experiences. Some of us face the sun in different directions. We cast our shadow differently. So why should they not be different colors now? One day, one cold day, the wind pulled forcefully at Freddie and his friends, and some of his fellow leaves were torn from their branches. Freddie and his friends were frightened, but Daniel was calm. He explained that fall was the season when the leaves on the tree changed their home. Fall was the season when the leaves on the tree changed their home. Daniel said that the people who walked below called it dying. Freddie asked, will we die? And Daniel said, yes, everything dies, no matter how big, small, weak, or strong. And he continued by saying that as the leaves on the tree, he and Freddie and their friends had a purpose in life. They did their jobs. They enjoyed being alive, and soon it would be time to die. Freddie said adamantly, I won't die. Then he asked Daniel, will you die? And Daniel said, yes, when my time comes. As Freddie observed his friends falling from the tree, he thought it must be their time. But still he was frightened. And he told Daniel he was scared because he didn't know what was below where he would fall when the time came. And Daniel asked Freddie, well, were you afraid when the spring turned to summer and summer to fall? And Freddie said, no, that didn't bother me. Daniel went on, it's the same with death. It's as natural as the seasons. It's simply changed. We will change our home, fall to the ground, and become nourishment for the tree we had our life on. Freddie asked, will the tree die? And Daniel said that after many seasons it might. But it was important to understand that life itself would go on. Spring would bring new buds, new saplings, new offspring to the animals and people. Life endures, Daniel tried to convey to Freddie. After a very hard frost and whipping winds, most of the leaves on the trees were gone. Freddie watched as Daniel finally let go. Freddie could see Daniel smiling as he fell to the ground way below. But Freddie hung on as the nights grew colder and the winds harsher. He was the last leaf on the tree. He was leather-like and curled up. And finally, after the first snow, Freddie let go. And as he fell, he felt the same calm he saw in Daniel. Freddie looked up and saw the whole tree for the first time, and he understood. When he fell on the snow, it felt soft and almost warm. Freddie let himself be cradled by winter's blanket and let go of his life as a leaf. Death is another season, a change in form. Now, I have to say that I did grow up in Clearwater, Florida. So I didn't really experience 4 seasons or the kind of phenomenon that's being reflected in Leo's book. But even Florida has seasons, and it wasn't until I was away living up north for many years and came back that I realized, when do the leaves fall from the trees here in Florida?
All the
Spring.
Never.
All right, so every place has deciduous and evergreens, right? But we have a lot of things here that stay green all year round. But the various oaks that we have here, their leaves fall in the spring when new buds come out on the branches. So it's a little bit different cycle, but still the same. The story still applies. Death is another season, a change in form. So now let me recite the names of those members of our fellowship whose life form changed in the last 12 months. These are the folks who died. Gay Garland, March 28th, 2023. Cyril Siegel, April 10th, 2023. Rebecca Bontempo, the wife of Richard Mersitz, April 24th, 2023. Harriet Schumann, July 21st, 2023. And Stover Snook, July 8th, 2023. So if you knew any of those folks, let me just give you a moment to recall in your mind and heart their face, something about them, something about their lives, how they might have brought you joy or brought meaning to your life. So let me conclude my homily by saying that I feel certain that for us as humans, we bud, we leaf, we have our purpose, we do our job, and then journey toward life's end. You know, it's much more complicated than that in between, right? But really the big picture, it's very much like Freddie's life. But each of our lives is something that can never be erased from the fabric of time and space. Not only those leaves on the trees as well, can never be erased. And as long as we remain a memory in the hearts that love, we live on, but in a different form. And as you remember your deceased loved ones today, your friends, your mentors, those you want to bring back to heart and mind, well, written on the ribbons, remember the words of Khalil Gibran. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. So I leave you with that spirit as we prepare to do the bringing names to the wreath for yet another year. So I am going to read number 720 in the Singing of the Living Tradition while Eric and David Nelson bring the wreath to the table. These are the words of Roland Gilshon. We remember them. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year, when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. So if you have written names on a ribbon at this time, Eric and David, can you lay the wreath down? And maybe we can have one more person who's done this before. Bill? Oh. Now, if you did not prepare a ribbon before you came into the sanctuary, there is a lectern right here that you can come up and create a ribbon, and please use the clipboard paper that's there because those markers bleed through. And now, as Monica will play some music for us, I invite you to come up and bring your ribbon to be placed on the wreath. course, we invite those on Zoom to put the names of those you want remembered in the chat, and Danielle will, we'll pick them up from our Zoom feed and make ribbons for you.